Namo Aditafa. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully, with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. For our Dharma lessons, we're reading Ajahn Munindo's book, Unexpected Freedom. We're continuing in the chapter, No Blame, with a section on right motivation. Surely our motivation to uncover causes for our problems is a natural interest in being free from suffering, and there isn't anything wrong with that. Yet the kind of blaming we're discussing does not come from pure-hearted interest. In these cases, the healthy impulse is to seek out the causes for suffering, became poisoned by untamed passions. Our life energy experienced as our human passions flared up and invaded hearts and ignited minds. This life energy is not in itself either good or bad. It is neutral. But the way in which it manifests gives rise to perceptions of good and bad. It is in how we relate to our perceptions that we can begin to take responsibility for our suffering. How we view our experience determines whether we live our lives blaming whenever we suffer, or whether, when suffering arises, we are strengthened in our commitment to being free. So, what can we do? In our contemplation of falling in love, we investigated how, in the height of intensity and aliveness, we might tend to default to old ways of contracting the heart awareness, thereby losing the beauty and freedom of being loving. We considered how this happens as a result of our inability to accommodate the fullness of life with all its energy. This inability arises out of habitual fear, which results in our becoming chronically limited in our capacity for wholehearted living. Instead of being liberated by that which promises to give us everlasting happiness, we end up spoiling it and becoming dependent on each other through attachment. Isn't it similar with blaming? When we don't get what we want, or we get what we don't want, or lose that which we enjoyed having, we suffer the pain of disappointment, sorrow, and despair. The energy flares up and we start to burn. Our initial reaction turns into indignation and rage. As the storm intensifies and moves upwards into our heads, we start imagining where we can place the blame. Through a perceived inability to hold the pain, like a volcano that cannot be contained by the earth's crust, our energy bursts out and lands on the object of our blame. Because the pressure of frustration feels intolerable, we project our heart energy out. Just to notice this is to see the very point where things can change. If we have prepared ourselves for these reactions, it is possible that instead of becoming more rigid in our clinging to what we want, we open up to accommodate the passions. To prepare ourselves with this kind of contemplation is to increase the likelihood of mindfulness being there when we need it. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. Namo Adita Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.